start the great name of Allah, who is most kind and most merciful. To all the listeners, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdullah Tunyo. I'm a student of BBA from Sindhu University campus, Ladkana. The purpose of recording this video is that I'm going to present a few presentations as part of my final term examination assigned by Ms. Hina Shah. Topics of presentation. Number 1 is two nation theory and Quaid-e-Azam's 14 points and Aryan civilization and Lahore resolution. These 4 are the topics of my presentation today, which I am going to present in front of you. Number 1 is two nation theory. Let's discuss this topic. Content, what is two nation theory, concept of two nation theory, and the differences between Hindus and Muslims, which became the basis of partition. These 3 are the main points of my presentation today. Number 1 is two nation theory. What is two nation theory? Pakistan ideology was based on the fact that the Muslims were a separate nation having their own culture, civilization, customs, literature, religion, and way of life. Two nation theory means the cultural, political, religious, economic, and social dissimilarities between the major communities, Hindus and Muslims of the subcontinent. This means they cannot be merged in any other nation because their philosophy of life is based on Islamic principles. As Muslims of India found it difficult to live according to the principles of Islam in the United India, they were forced to demand a separate homeland to safeguard their national and religious identity. And the entire freedom movement revolved around two nation theory, which became the basis of demand for Pakistan. Then comes concept of two nation theory. Sir Syed Imran Khan was the first Muslim leader who propounded this theory. He was the pioneer of the two nation theory. He used the word two nation for the Hindus and Muslims. In the beginning, he was a staunch advocate of Hindu-Muslim unity, but after being convinced of the Hindu and Congress hatred and for the Muslims, he came forward with this two nation concept and declared that the Muslims were a separate nation having their own culture, civilization, religion. Then comes third point of my presentation, which is differences between Hindus and Muslims. These are the factors which splitted the inhabitants of subcontinent into two nations. The first one is religious difference, cultural difference, social difference, economic difference, and education differences, political and language. Let us examine each of them separately. Number 1 difference is religious difference. There was a huge difference between Hindus and Muslim society. The major difference was religion. Muslims were believed on the oneness of God. Hindus worshipped many gods. Their way of life, their religious festivals were totally changed. Muslims believed on the equality of men, while on the other hand, Hindus were divided into different caste system. In spite of living together for a long time, the Muslims and Hindus were incapable to coexist and cooperate with each other. This comparison played a great role for the two nation theory to be existed in the subcontinent. As you can see in the table, there are so many different religious differences between Hindus and Muslims. Muslims believe in Tawheed, the oneness of God. On the other hand, Hindus believe in many gods. Muslims believed in Holy Quran. On the other hand, Hindus believed in Vedas. Muslims offer Salat, and on the other hand, Hindus worshipped idols, which was against the religion of Islam. Then comes cultural difference. Muslims followed Islamic culture. On the other hand, Hindus inherited the self-built culture. Muslims used to bury their dead bodies, and on the other hand, as you are aware of the fact that Hindus burned their dead bodies, Muslims slaughtered the cows, while Hindus consider it as sacred animal. In Islam, every human being is equal, while on the other hand, Hindus have caste systems. Then comes social difference. The two communities of the subcontinent differ in their social life, the clothes, the food, the household, the utensils, the construction of homes, the wordings of greetings. As Muslims say Assalamu alaikum, they say Namaste, Waheguru. The gestures and everything was changed in both communities. In the moral values, ethics, and the norms of both communities were totally different. Then comes economic differences. In Islam, there is a proper check and balance of economy, while on the other hand, Hindus have no check and balance in their religion. In Islam, zakat is compulsory. On the other hand, there is no concept of zakat in Hinduism. Interest is forbidden in Islam. There's no there's no objection on interest in Hinduism. Muslims were thrown out of the government sector and they became financially weak. While on the other hand, Hindus were provided with ample opportunities to progress economically. The Hindus had advanced in the education field. They quickly and readily took the English education, while Muslims did not receive the modern education, which heavily affected their economic conditions. As I discussed in previous slide, Muslims became so weak economically. This is the reason that Hindus had advanced and modern and English education, while Muslims were deprived of modern education. They were thrown out of the government sectors, so they become economically weak. Then comes political differences. The first one is Hindi Urdu controversy, then Congress attitude, and the final partition of Bengal. When in 1867 Hindus demanded the Urdu should be written in Hindi script instead of Urdu script, this created a huge and another gap between Hindus and Muslims. And then the Congress, which was founded in 1885, it claimed to represent all the communities of India, but it always oppressed all the Muslims of India and supported the Hindus. In 1905, partition of Bengal ensured a number of political benefits for the Muslims, but Hindus launched an agitation against the partition and was annulled in 1911. Well, then comes the language difference, as I discussed in the previous slide. Hindi Urdu controversy, which became the basis of the another huge gap. Well, Muslims, the language of Muslims was Urdu and was written in Arabic script, and the Hindi language was spoken by the Hindus and it was written in Sanskrit. This was also the basis of two nation theory and the basis of their differences. Then comes two nation theory and political leaders. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the pioneer to the two nation theory, he said that I am convinced now that the Hindus and Muslims could never become one nation, as their religion and the way of life was quite distinct from each other. And then Quaid-e-Azam. Quaid-e-Azam did a long-lasting struggle for the independence of separate Muslim state, and Jinnah also took dependence on two nation theory. He said we should have a state in which we could live and breathe as a free man, and which we could develop according to our own lights and culture, and where principles of Islamic social justice would find free play. And he also said Muslims are minority, they are one by nation, by every definition of the word nation. And Allama Iqbal, he said that India is a continent of human beings belonging to different languages, professing religions. I therefore demand formation of a consolidated Muslim state in the best interest of Muslims of India and Islam. Allama Iqbal's presidential address to the 1930 Allahabad session of All India Muslim League spoke of the Punjab, North, West Frontier Province, Sindh and Balochistan united in a single state. He thought that the final fortune for the India was separate state without the British rule. He presented some long-term and short-term solution for the independence, and his struggle from words was first promoted from the platform of Muslim League. Well, thank you. This was it from my first topic of presentation today. So, coming to the second topic of my presentation today, which is 14 points of Quaid-e-Azam. Let's discuss this topic. Well, main points of my presentation, background of 14 points of Quaid-e-Azam. We shall discuss all the points in detail. Then importance of 14 points. Background. Quaid-e-Azam decided to give his own formula for the constitution reforms in reply to the Nehru report. Since the Nehru report was the last word from Hindus, therefore Mr. Jinnah was authorized to draft in the concise term the basis of any future constitution that was to be devised for India. Originally these demands were 14 in number, and so they popularly came to be known as Jinnah's 14 points. In March 1929, at the annual session of All India Muslim League, he declared his 14 points. The Nehru Report of 10 August 1928 was a memorandum to appeal for a new dominion status and a federal setup for Government of India, Constitution of India. The Nehru Report was criticized by the Muslim leaders Aga Khan and Mohammad Shafi. They considered it as a death warrant because it recommended joint electoral rolls for Hindus and Muslims. Well, on December 1928, during all-party conference, Jinnah proposed some amendments on the Nehru's report. He proposed 14 points for safeguarding the rights and interests of Muslims in any future constitution of the country. These points covered all the interests of the Muslims at heated time, and in this Jinnah stated that it was the parting of ways that he did not want and would not have anything to do with the Indian National Congress in the future. While giving his 14 points, Jinnah stated that it was the parting ways and that he did not want and would have anything to do with the Indian National Congress in the future. These points became the demands of the Muslims and greatly influenced the Muslims thinking for the next 2 decades till the establishment of Pakistan in 1947. The all parties conference accepted the Nehru's report, which became a rare example of political foresight and wisdom, but unfortunately a few months later the report was rejected by the Muslim League led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. After his return to India from England, thus India faced a triangular struggle between the Congress, the League and the British, a struggle which often assumed the shape of a Gandhi-Jinnah duel. So, the 14 points of Quaid-e-Azam. Number 1 point is federal system. The reform of the future constitution should be federal with residuary powers rested in the provinces. The second point which he proposed was provincial autonomy. A uniform measure of autonomy shall be granted to all the provinces. Then representation of minorities. All legislative in the country and other elected bodies shall be constituted on the definite principle of adequate and effective representation of minorities in every province without reducing the majority in any province to minority or even equality. Number 4th point which he proposed, number of Muslims representative. In the central legislative, Muslims representatives shall not be less than 1/3. Separate electorate, representative of communal groups shall continue to be by means of separate electorates as at present, provided it shall be open to any community at any time to abandon its separate electorate in favor of the joint electorate. Number 6 point, Muslims majority provinces. Any territorial redistribution that might at any time be necessary shall not be in any way affect the Muslims majority in the Punjab, Bengal and Northwest Frontier Province. Then religious liberty, full religious liberty, liberty of belief, worship and observance, association and education shall be guaranteed to all the communication. 3/4 representation, no bill or resolution shall be passed in any legislation or any other elected body if 3/4 of the members of any community in that particular body oppose such a bill. Separation of Sindh, he proposed that the Sindh should be separated from Bombay Presidency. Then introduction to reform in Northwest Frontier Province and Balochistan. Reforms should be introduced in the Northwest Frontier Province and Balochistan on the same footing as in other provinces. Then he proposed government services. Muslims should be given adequate share along with other Indians in the service of state. Protection of Muslims culture and language. The constitution should embody adequate safeguard for the protection of Muslim culture and language, religion and civilization. Then 1/3 Muslim ministers, no cabinet in either central provincial be formed without being proportion at least 1/3 Muslim ministers. Number 4th Constitution, no change shall be made in the constitution of state except with the concurrence of the state constituting the Indian Federation. These 14 points were proposed by Quaid-e-Azam. Then importance of these 14 points. Well, these points made it clear to the Hindus and British government that Muslims wanted their own identity without any influence by the Hindus. 14 points of Qaid-e-Azam became principle for Muslims of India. These points made it clear to the Hindus and British government that Muslims of India will not bear any influence from Hindus or British government. 14 points not only revived Muslim League, but also directed them on a new way. These points prepared the Muslims for India for a bold step to struggle for freedom. These points became demands for the Muslims and greatly influenced the Muslims thinking for the next 2 decades till the independence of 1947 of Pakistan. Well, thank you. This was it from my second topic of my presentation. So the third topic of my presentation today, which is the Aryan civilization. Let's discuss this topic. Points to consider: who are Aryans, their arrival in the Indus Valley, their caste system, and their two periods. Let's discuss all these points. Well, Aryan civilization. In Sanskrit, an ancient Indo-European language, the word Aryan refers to the noble ones. The Aryans migrated from Eastern Europe between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea looking for pastures for their animals. They entered the Indus Valley through the fabled Khyber Pass. The Khyber Pass cuts through the Hindu Kush mountains in Pakistan, which is India's neighbor to the northwest. In contrast to the city-dwelling Harappans, the Aryans were nomads who raised livestock, rode chariots, and loved to gamble. They lived in simple homes. They did not have farms. They didn't know how to ride, how to build brick houses or cities. They were great thinkers, inventors. They knew how to make iron. They mined for coal and iron. They grouped in clans and herded sheep and goats. They were ruled by warriors, chiefs, and rajas. Aryan civilization and the caste system. Well, the caste system in India began after the Aryans invaded and established their own rules for governing. The Vedas describes that the Aryans were divided into four castes. The caste system is the division of society based on the occupation and family ancestry. And a passage from Rig Veda which says, the world was formed from Purusa, whose body is described as follows. The Brahmin was his mouth, his two arms became the Rajanya, which we call Kshatriyas, his thighs are what the Vaishyas are, and from his feet the Shudras were made. Number one caste is Brahmin. Well, Brahmins are considered to be the seers, the reflective ones, the priests, the intellectual and the spiritual leaders. In this society, they would correspond to the philosopher, religious leaders, and teachers. And number second caste, Kshatriyas. Well, they are considered to be the warriors and rulers, the protector of the society. And in their society, the politician, the police, and the military men are. And number third caste, Vaishyas. They are considered to be the skillful producers of the material things in this society. They are merchants. And number fourth caste is Shudras. Well, they are Shudra caste is considered to be the lower caste in Hinduism, the unskilled laborers or laboring class. The followers are the maintenance of people. The so-called manual workers are hard laborers. So these four are the castes of Aryans. Two periods of Aryan civilization. The first one is Vedic age. The second one is the Epic age. The Vedic period refers to the time in history during which Indo-Aryans settled in northern India, bringing with them specific religious traditions. Most of the history of this period is derived from the Vedas, the oldest scriptures in the Hindu religion, which were composed by the Aryans in Sanskrit. Many scholars believe Vedic civilization was a composite of Indo-Aryans and Harappan or Indus Valley cultures. The second one is the Epic age. The Indo-Aryans in the early Vedic period relied heavily on a pastoral, semi-nomadic economy with limited agriculture. They raised sheep, goats, and cattle, which became symbols of wealth. The Indo-Aryans also preserved collections of religious and literary works by memorizing and reciting them and handing them down from one generation to next. In their sacred language, Sanskrit, the Rig Veda, which was likely composed during this time, contains several mythological and poetical accounts of the origins of this world, hymns praising God, and ancient prayers for life and prosperity. Organized into tribes, the Vedic Aryans regularly clashed over land and resources. The Rig Veda describes the most of the notable these conflicts The battle of the 10 kings between the Bharatas tribe and confederation of 10 competing tribes on the bank of what is now the Ravi River in northern West India and eastern Pakistan, led by their king Sudha, and the Bharatas claimed victory and merged with defeated Puru's tribe to form the Kuru, a Vedic tribal union in the northern India. Well, thank you. That's it from my third topic of my presentation today. So, fourth and last topic of my presentations is Lahore resolution. Let's discuss this topic with details. So, contents, background, reasons for passing Pakistan resolution. Well, Lahore resolution is also called Pakistan resolution. Then Quaid-e-Azam's address resolution. Number fourth, reaction on Pakistan resolution. Let's discuss. Well, background. The inception of Pakistan started for the 23rd of March 1940, when the All India Muslim League in its annual session passed a resolution in Lahore which came to be known as the Pakistan Resolution. The Congress rule had intensified the Muslim apprehensions who feared the Hindu domination in the event of British leaving the country, so they decided to demand the partition. The Pakistan movement is the old as a history of Muslims in the subcontinent. This is because Pakistan is created on the basis of two nations theory. We already discussed two nation theory in our previous slides. Well, 23rd of March in 1940, the 27th annual meeting of Muslim League, a resolution was passed about the creation of Pakistan. Let's discuss what were the reasons for passing out Pakistan resolution. Well, it was two nation theory. We have already discussed what is two nation theory in our previous slides. The idea of separate homeland of Allama Iqbal and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, they both gave early thoughts about separate homeland for Muslims. The atrocious rule of Congress, the Congress which was full of hatred towards Muslims, they were oppressing the Muslims, they were not listening to the Muslims, and they were supporting only Hindus. These were the general reasons for passing Pakistan resolution. So, the annual session of Muslim League, 23rd March 1940. Well, session was presided by Quaid-e-Azam. Quaid-e-Azam was the president of that annual meeting on 23rd of March 1940. Liaquat Ali Khan presented the annual report of Muslim League. Resolution was moved by Maulvi Fazlul Haq. Resolution was seconded by Chaudhry Khaliquzzaman. Quaid-e-Azam's presidential address. Well, the venue of the session was Minto Park near Bashai Masjid and Lahore Fort. According to a rough estimate, around 1 lakh attended the meeting. The Qaid, in his 2 hours presidential address, the events that took place in the past few months, and concluded, Hindus and the Muslims belong to two different religions, philosophies, social customs, and literature. The 2.5 years of Congress rule is soaring experience. Their rule has taught us a lesson and have created a fear of Hindu domination. Muslims are nation by every definition of the word nation. It is wrong to consider Muslims as minority. They neither intermarry nor interdine together, and indeed they belong to two different civilizations that are based mainly on conflicting ideas and conceptions. Their concepts on life and of life are different. It is quite clear that Hindus and Muslims derive their inspiration from different sources of history. They have different epics, different heroes, and different episodes to how together two such nations under a single state as a numerical minority and the other as a majority must lead to growing discontent and final destruction of any fabric that may be so built up for the government of such a state. He further claimed Muslims are a nation according to any definition of a nationhood. We wish our people to develop to the fullest spiritual, cultural, economic, social, and political life in a way that we think best and in consensus with our own ideals and according to the genius of our people. Hindus and Muslims belong to different civilizations which are mainly based on conflicting ideas and misconceptions. Well, this all was the Quaid-e-Azam's presidential address. Then comes resolution. what it says, let's discuss. Federal system under Government of India Act 1935 was not acceptable for the Muslims. Well, on the constitutional issue, this session of the All India Muslim League emphatically reiterates that the scheme of federation embodied in the Government of India Act 1935 is totally unsuited to and unworkable in the peculiar conditions of the country and is altogether unacceptable to Muslims of India. And no revised constitutional plan would be acceptable unless it was approved with their frame. Well, it further records its emphatic view that while the declaration of dated the 18th of October 1935 made by the Vizier on behalf of His Majesty's government is reassuring in so far as it declares that the policy and the plan on which the Government of India Act 1935 is based will be reconsidered in consultation with the various parties, interests and communities in India. Muslims of India will not be satisfied unless the whole constitutional plan is reconsidered, and that no revised plan would be acceptable to the Muslims unless it is framed with their approval and consent. And adjacent units where Muslims are in majority, as in the northwest and east, should be constituted as independent states where constituent units will be autonomous and sovereign. Well, it resolved that it is considered view of this session of All India Muslim League that no constitutional plan would be workable in the country or acceptable to the Muslims unless it is designed on the following basic principles, namely that geographically contiguous units are demarcated into regions which should be constituted with such territorial as may be necessary, that the areas in which the Muslims are numerically in a majority, as in the northwest and eastern zones of India, should be grouped to constitute independent states in which the constituent units shall be autonomous and sovereign. That etiquette, effective and mandatory safeguards should be specifically provided in the constitution for minorities in these units and in these regions for the protection of their religion, culture, economic, political, administrative and other rights and interests in consultation with them. And in the other parts of India where Muslims are in minority, etiquette, effective and mandatory safeguards shall be especially provided in the constitution for them and other minorities for the protection of their religion, culture, economic, political, administrative and other rights and interests in consultation with them. This session further authorizes a working committee to frame a scheme for constitution in accordance with these basic principles, providing for the assumption finally by the receptive region of all powers such as defense, external affairs, communication, customs and such other matters may be necessary. The Lahore Resolution of 1940 passed with all sincerity and it got the fame as Pakistan Resolution. Pakistan means a land where Muslims will be free and independent to lead their lives according to ideal principles of Islam as in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. Well, reactions on Pakistan Resolution. Hindu reaction. The Hindu media came out with the most aggressive propaganda against the resolution and declared it as a conspiracy against country. The British reaction. Well, the British did not oppose it because it was based on two-nation theory. After World War, they were already in critical condition, so they didn't want to invite any trouble by opposing the Muslims. So this was it. Well, thank you. This was it from me. Thank you all for listening, and I especially would like to thank Ms. Hinasha for giving me the chance to use YouTube for academic purpose. Well, it is. I'm really grateful to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.